Good evening, good evening, good evening. I am excited that you are back. Hey, we had a great day today, and so tonight, the goal is that we would get to these numbers. Now, I've never been accused of going short, so I'm going to do my best to clip through it. But I know it's a lot of information as well, and it's kind of like drinking water through a fire hose. And so I hope you understand. A couple of quick reminders before we dive in. You do you. You want to get up, stretch. You want to run around, do a lap, whatever is best for you is all good. We're excited. We got plenty of desserts, we got snacks, we got beverages, we got everything there to try and sustain you during this time. Okay, hey, really quick. I was looking at a survey, and they surveyed all these leaders. And they asked the question to all these people who were in positions of leadership, and this would be in a business setting, and they asked him this question: are you self-aware? Okay, so are you self-aware? Easy question. Basically, do you consider yourself someone to understand the social workings around you and within you, all these kind of things? And in this survey, 84% of the people who were in positional leadership replied yes, that they were above average self-aware. So, which, at first you're like, that's cool. Then they did this test with the same leaders that actually measured their self-awareness, and they discovered that 13% of these leaders were self-aware, which by definition means that a lot of people are not self-aware. And the more self-aware we think we are, the truth is sometimes that is actually the very thing that makes us not self-aware. So, all that's a stat, and it's great, we can read that. But here's what I want to think about. When it comes to important relationships around you, as a parent, there's sometimes in life where relationships are humbling. As a parent, there are days where you're like, I am not self-aware. I do not have what it takes to do this well. But there's a lot of times we feel like we're on cruise control, right? And then we got to ask ourselves, are we doing this the most effective way? Are we honoring God in these relationships? In a marriage relationship, the human soul will never drift towards health. It will never drift towards health. It's like pedaling a bicycle up a hill. You're not going to drift there. You're going to have to work your way there. Every relationship that's important to you, we're going to have to be very intentional about bringing health to ourselves so that we can lean in. So, hey, we're gonna dive in a couple. This is scary. As a communicator, what I'm about to do, this is what keeps me up at night. It's going to be a scary moment for me. It'll be very vulnerable. I'm going to ask us some questions about last night. Here's why it's scary. Because we might not remember it all. That's all right. And that's fine. We'll do some reminder. But let's see. Maybe we've got this. Okay, so ready? Diaphragm, that's where the projection comes from. Okay, here we go. How many types are in the Enneagram? Anybody know? 9 types. Okay, we're warming up. See, that's helpful for me. I didn't want to start with a tough one. Okay. When we talked about the Enneagram, communication was like a ball, but how can communication, this might be someone just raising your hand, you're going to be brave, and it'll tell us a lot about your number probably if you volunteer. But how can communication, why can we say that communication could be like Play-Doh, not like a ball? Somebody want to quickly give us a one-sentence explanation of how communication could be like Play-Doh? Okay, yes. Absolutely. So when we're tossing a ball, you receive what I toss to you. When we're tossing Play-Doh, you can shape it however you want. We shape it based on our perspective. And so last night we also talked about type 1, and there's different words for type 1, but what we talked about last night, we talked about type 1 was the Perfectionist, okay? Perfectionist. If you don't know you're a type 1, let somebody else load your dishwasher. If you have to redo it, you're probably type 1, okay? Type 1s have two ways to do everything, their way and the wrong way. That's just how type 1s work. If you're married to a type 1, I've got a counselor. I'd love to I'm just kidding, okay? Is type 1s they're very process-oriented, very system-oriented. They can bring beauty and organization out of chaos. They can take vision from an idea to a reality. Very few successful, sustainable movements happen without type 1's fingerprints all over this thing. So type 2, we talked about last night, type 2 was the helper. And their number one drive, I wasn't a fill in the blank, but they're really geared into relationships. It's all about relationships. We talked about COVID being the death to a number 2. They don't want to miss out on relationships and whatnot. And so we talk about that. And they can be very sensitive, very sensitive. This would be fun. We also talk about this, that the Enneagram types, there's two things they're not, and there's one thing they are. It was one of our fill in the blanks. So cheat if no one else gets it. Okay. The Enneagram number is not it's not a label. It is not something that you just throw out at people. It's not an offensive word it's not a weapon. You're being such a, whatever. Okay. That's not what the Enneagram is. It's not just to be able to put everyone in groups. Everyone's different. Obviously, there's only 9 types that we're walking through. We categorize them, but it doesn't mean it's predictable behavior, but it just means it's more predictable than the weather, but it doesn't mean it's accurate all the time. So the other thing is it's not a label. It's also not a lid. You're not boxed into this thing, okay? You're not. And the goal of the Enneagram is not to be a healthy version of your number. The goal of the Enneagram is to be healthy, period. And here's what I've also realized about the Enneagram. I have the ability to be dysfunctional on every type. I've got a little of that in me. So you can't be like, no, that's not me because I'm not that number. No, that might not be the number you major in, but you can probably minor in that type, okay? I'm telling you, we all have the ability to be as dysfunctional in any number. What we're saying is my heart is prone to wander, and the psalmist says, search my heart, see if there's any wicked way in me. Spoiler, there is, okay? And so as we ask God to see what wicked ways, there are certain tendencies that, and again, my tendency doesn't absolve me of responsibility. My tendency should be an awareness. So the Enneagram is not a label, it's not a lid, but it's a light to shine into the darkness. We are divinely designed by God. And then here's what we talked about last night. So we're just catching us up to speed real quick. And that we have this opportunity to be aware of some tendencies, some predictable patterns of behavior that can bring dysfunction to every relationship and cap the beauty of our relationship even with God. And so if we can grow into health and be aware of these things, invite the Spirit of God every single day in every single way. It's literally, we talked about this last night, serial killer every single day. I die to my flesh. I crucify is the really offensive word that we see in Scripture used there. It's a brutal bludgeoning to death of this inner desire. Because I have these desires, I don't care how natural these desires are within me, they're not my label or my excuse to live and be led by my desires. Feelings, remember we talked about toddlers last night too. Feelings are like toddlers, is you don't want them to drive the car, you don't want to stuff them in the trunk. Somewhere in between the steering wheel and the trunk is where a toddler goes, okay? And so in our life we have feelings. We need to be aware of them. We need to know what's going on. But we don't let them drive our decisions, and we don't stuff them, because if we stuff them, they're like a beach ball. And a beach ball ain't going to be hidden underneath water long, because there's enough pressure, they pop up, they embarrass everybody when they come out. So that's the Enneagram. Let me give one more example of why this is it's important to understand each other, and then we're going to dive into type 3. When I was the youth pastor, I was a youth pastor actually here at the time, and we took a bunch of students over to the Seattle area for what's called the Fine Arts Festival, okay? Which is like Teen Talent or American Idol for Assembly of God kids. And so we take them over there. There's all types of categories, like a ton of categories, and so they're there, and so they had not mobilized enough volunteers to adjudicate the different categories. And so they're looking at all the youth pastors that were stuck there all day because the bus ain't leaving till later, and they're like, hey, you got anything going on today? And I'm like, nope. And they're like, can you be a judge? Which I don't mind doing that occasionally. I'm an unofficial judge at many events I attend. Many Sunday night offertories throughout my life, I was an unofficial judge. I felt very qualified to judge any of these teenagers and be the voice of critical spirit into their life. I thought this was going to be a great moment. And I said, what category? Because I'm well versed in many of those talents, right? Singing, flautist, whatever it might be. And they said, can you judge the sign language category? Which I have no hesitation in having that authority. I just don't have a lot of experience with sign language. I know like one sign language sign that's pretty offensive, okay? And so I'm like, I hope no kids are doing that in a human video. But so I'm like, okay. So literally I'm sitting up there and I'm watching these teenagers one at a time come up and they're doing the sign language, which beautiful. Well, let me just say this, beautiful language. One of the more beautiful languages I've ever observed. But now I've got to write about each of their presentations, and I stand in the gap between them and a trip to Orlando for National Fine Art Festival. And so I'm like trying to bring some good critique, and I'm like, very beautiful, very good. Honestly, I didn't understand everything you were communicating, so you might want to work on that. And here's the deal. Why did they have me judge? I have no business being a judge because I didn't understand the language they were communicating. And that's why are we diving into this. So it's not just about like waking me up when it gets to my number. Because that's very selfish. That's dysfunctional. It's everyone around you is a piece of work, right? Just look, it's a swivel, huh? Right? Okay? And so my job is I have no business judging them, but without understanding. Today, here's my prayers. We say, God, speak to me. Help me to understand. Help me to have this, we talk about this Sunday morning, help me to have some real intention to my attention. Help me to really lean in and say, God, I want to be someone who can honor those around me, dignify the differences around me, and be better positioned to be used by you in these relationships. So we're gonna continue diving into that. So we're gonna start with the Enneagram number 3. If you've got your notes, don't feel pressure. You're not gonna turn this in or turn this to the person on the right and grade it or anything like that. This will help you at least know when you can put your shoes back on, okay, when I'm almost done. But we're going to go to 3. If I miss something, I don't feel like I need to remind you because you did a great job last night of throwing something at me when I do miss something. But we'll go for that. So number 1, the perfectionist. We talked about anger, that they have a very short fuse, is the sin. Each one of these has a sin. It's based on a sin that we're prone to. And so the perfectionists, they want to get things done. There's a sense of control. Anger comes when I don't have the ability to control something. Here's the deal. Anger is a last-ditch effort to control something I feel slipping out of my control. Okay? We can put the parenting hat on and think about that for a second. Right? Like that's what we do as a parent. When I realize I can't control this kid and now I'm getting embarrassed, anger. It's a lot. We do that on the, think about this in sports. The basketball coach who just goes off on the ref, like out of control. It's just a last-ditch effort to try and control something because they feel it's out of control. It's, I can't control what you're calling. I'm so mad at you. Blah, right? So we've got that. And when you have someone who's very good at order, the dysfunction is order. There's a fine line between order and control. And so when we slip that, that's where that is. The second one is the helper. We talked about the helper. And then the sin there is pride.
And how that's pride, it doesn't mean that they walk around all haughty and above. They don't consider themselves more valuable, but they begin to do whatever it is. They notice others in an attempt to be noticed, right? And so that's where it's pride. Is I really am going to do whatever it takes for you to see me. So let's dive in today to the achiever. The achiever. And the achiever is the type 3. And how many of you have taken the test and you landed at a type 3? Any other type 3s around? I think we got... All right. Okay, so type 3. I'm a type 3. And those of you who are type 3, let me start with this. Congratulations. Okay, this is the correct one. This is the sin that you really want to be really good at. Okay, so type 3, let's dive through. The darkness is this. This is kind of a fun one. Deceit. So, my name is Jeremy, and you should never trust me. So, glad I have the mic, right? So, deceit. And that doesn't mean deceit like, hey, don't ever tell me like where you keep your valuables at home or anything like that. That's not necessarily what deceit means. But deceit might mean, I will tell the best version of the truth that I feel might accomplish this objective. Okay? Is that I'm very concerned about the image. It's like a perfume factory. Like, is this the content in the perfume actually doesn't cost near as much as the container of the perfume. The content is actually very cheap stuff, right? The container is where all the money's at. And a 3 is like that. They're like very into the container. Like, if I can make a container look good, people might pay more money. The content's, it's all right. But the container is what it's all about. Now, I got to say, there are some advantages to it, okay? Some of us need to send our content back to marketing, okay? And maybe consider a little bit more money in the container with our words. But 3s are way consumed with that. And so deceit could be the sin. The death for a 3 is losing. Is the 3's got to win at everything. The drive for a 3 is to win in every area. So 3's not only want to win, they want to look good while doing it. They want to make an impact. A lot of things that I wrote down about 3's. They could be so focused on self-image, they have a hard time leaning into self-awareness. The 3 is often so good at painting a picture. The first time they tell their version of a story, they know they're probably fudging a little, but they do it so well by the second and third time they tell the story, they think they're totally telling the truth. They have even fooled themselves, okay? And what that could be is they can look at the data and they can spin the data in such a way as they can convince themselves they didn't lose, okay? Because they can't handle losing. So some of the things is the 3's are going to try and, they're the person who talks longer and louder and usually about themselves. They read the shortest story on the shelf when it's time to read the kids. That way they can say that they did it. They really don't care about doing it. They care about having done it. They'll pray really fast and quick and because they're tired and they want to get it done, but they want to look like they're a good parent doing it. Disney characters, Aladdin, because they'll show you the world shining, shimmering, splendid. When they shop, they're always in this competition of which line will get done fastest. And so they calculate quickly, and it's this weird algorithm between items in cart, age of person pushing carts, and the competence of the person behind the register. And you do quick math, and you determine where you should be, and it's not enough there. That's not when you rest. Now you have an imaginary placeholder where everyone else is in line where you would have been had you chosen the other line, and you play that competition game. It's just a 3. You got to win. You got to be efficient. When you shop, you don't look around. You have a list. You get in, get it done, get out. Okay, that's what you do. 3's. 3's aren't limited by things people see. They can see what isn't obvious to others. 3's a lot of vision. Oftentimes they're optimistic, confident, self-propelling, goal setters, motivators, big personality, energy. a lot of times image-driven, relational chameleons. And here's where relationally a 3 can be deceptive. Okay, when we're not healthy, we can be very deceptive because we want to win the conversation. That means, like, here's where it's been challenging in my life, especially in a work environment. Like we can have a talk about a challenge at work, and I'm going to motivate you. Like, I'm going to talk like that. I want to connect with you. My goal is at the end of this conversation, you're going to walk away and be like, man, I like my boss. He's great. That Jeremy, he's great. I'm going to walk out of this conversation and be like, that guy is fired. This is crazy. And then when we have to like make a transition or shift something, they're like so shocked. They'd be like, what? What was all that cool connection yesterday? And I'm like, I don't know. And it wasn't because I was lying. It's because I just didn't want to feel awkward during that meeting, right? I want you to walk away winning. As a matter of fact, I have this pressure as a 3 that I need to make sure that every relationship in my life looks at my image and evaluates my image. A lot of times it can be all about dress stuff. You want to win, you're going to talk about your fantasy football team way too much. You're going to often exaggerate, stress the truth, put some spin on it. So here's some things about the 3s. They have to be successful in everything. In everything. So for me, an example. If a 3 doesn't win, they'll stop playing the game. I actually don't love to play tennis, but I played tennis a lot growing up because my favorite sport is basketball. I'm just not that great at basketball. I'm not, and I can prove it. Okay, if we have a basketball, I can prove I'm not very great at basketball, but I love basketball. But I wanted to win. I didn't like not being a starter. But tennis in North Idaho, I found myself a niche, right? Like, not a lot of players playing tennis. And so when I played tennis, it was great. And I played tennis a lot. And I like to win trophies. I still have a trophy case that we have. I begged my wife to let us keep it there. And it's still trophies from when I was a kid that I have up because they're important to me. I was in a wiffle ball league that we created because you got to compete. You don't just, I'm never going to get the guys, let's just play wiffle ball. We're going to get in a league and it's going to be competitive. We won the league, by the way, and it was awesome. And I called ahead and figured out what kind of awards they were going to give us, and they were like plastic silly medals. So I went to a trophy shop and had trophies made for each of us on our wiffle ball team because I used to compete. Now I buy trophies. You're good at everything when you figure out there's trophy shops, right? And so we do that. And I'd still play tennis as an adult, and then guess what happened in my league? They started letting higher rated players be in our league and younger players, and now they're letting college tennis players in our league in Springfield. So guess what? I stopped playing tennis. And I realized, oh, it's not because I like tennis. I just like to win. And when I realize I can't win anymore, I'll try something different. I don't care what it is, as long as I can win. That's called unhealthy 3. Now, it's cute when it comes to hobbies. It's not even cute when it comes to hobbies. It's probably very annoying. It's not cool when it comes to marriage. What happens when you feel like you're losing? Well, I'll win somewhere else. Here's the weird thing about a 3. If you lose, you don't even think you're a loser. You're just like, this is a dumb game. I'm such a winner. It's so rare. I lost in this environment. Let me find another environment because I'm bound to win there, right? That's what a 3 is going to think. Relationally, that's not a great quality. As a parent, when the going gets tough, you will create another environment to win if you don't feel like you're winning as a parent. If you don't grow. 3's the best gift you can lean into is the gift of failure. Failure can teach you way more than winning can ever teach you. Why do we avoid it? And so here's what's crazy is as we think about scoreboards, we also think about what you think of my scoreboard. It's because 3's focus on the image. And the 3's, another thing about them, and it ties into deceit, they'll change their identity to chase an opportunity. They can change their identity in order to chase a new opportunity. If this is an opportunity for me to win. Here's the challenge with 3's. A 3 could quit a good thing at a bad time because they're not getting the results they want. Result-oriented. America loves result-oriented people, right? In business, we celebrate that out of proportion. But threes, when they're healthy, if you go to that last page, when a 3 is the healthiest, they go to the best part of the 6, which is faithful, loyal, consistent. To me, that sounds like, oh, because that's how unhealthy I am as a 3 sometimes. I'm like, my reward is I get to stick with something long after it's fun. That's a reward? No, it's called health. In any relationship or pursuits or calling worth doing is going to require that. So that's what 3 is. So here's a prescription for growth for 3s. Number 1, evaluate. Focus on the why more than you focus on the who. Focus on the why more than the who. Because if my why remains solid, then I don't need to worry so much about the scoreboard. During a business during a pandemic, unless you're like working in some different health industries or cleaning companies or something, your scoreboard probably isn't as exciting as it was a couple years ago. And so during those times, you got to focus on the why. Another thing is this: we've got to celebrate. So you evaluate by focusing on the why. Second thing is you celebrate. You enjoy the success of others. This is when a 3 becomes healthy. When a 3 doesn't have to be the person that gets the attention. If you're a 3, here's the deal. There are some we'll get to a type 5. Like a type 5, you never want to surprise them, like call on them. The type 5 might have the answer and never say anything. And we'll talk about that. But the type 3, they're the type of person who just raises their hand in class, and the teacher finally calls on them, and they're like, what's the question? They don't care. They don't care if they don't know the answer. They'll just make something up. They want to talk. When we grow up, we need to understand, man, healthy 3 is saying, hey, I'm going to celebrate other people's voice. If I can grow my fruit on somebody else's tree, I'm just as excited. And that's called being a mentor instead of being a magnet, right? And then 3 is investigate. What lessons can failure teach? That's what a 3 can do. Just investigate. What are the lessons that failure can teach? How do I learn? And 3s are going to be driven to figure it out and learn and win again. So they're not gonna stay stuck. So 3s, you shouldn't be afraid of momentary failure, whether it's relationally, learn the lesson. Why is that relationship rocky right now? Figure it out, adjust. Invite God to work there. One of the biblical verses, if you're in one of the groups, obviously Matt talked about last night, we're going to have some groups that launch for those who want to lean into this or an excuse to just have community, to be honest, as well. But there's different Bible passages that talk about this. The 3, I think one narrative is the story of Jacob. Jacob and Esau, the 2 twins in the Old Testament, tells the story of Jacob, who desperately wanted to receive something. It was a double portion of inheritance from his dad, and so he pretended to be someone he wasn't for his blind dad to think that he was his brother. And so he dressed up with goat hair on his arms and a weird deep voice. And his dad was like, are you sure that you're Esau? And he's like, yeah, I'm totally Esau. Give me what I want. I'm willing to act however I need to act to get whatever I want to get. Now, there's a lot to that story, but one of the biggest lessons of Jacob's life is when he stopped running and stopped pretending, and he had to admit who he was and stop trying to chase who he wasn't. So that's the 3. We're going to go into the type 4, which is the artist, or the individualist is a very common word here. How many type 4s do we got? We got type 4s in the house. We got type 4 over here, type 4 over there. 2 type 4s, am I missing anyone? Oh, there's a type 4 up there. All right, type 4 over here. Okay, we got type 4. We got type 4 with a red on top of the hair. I like that. That's fun. Okay. Not surprising. I love it. Type 4. We're going to talk about the people who are they're like the Crayola box of God's creation. They're the ones who can express in a way that brings everything to technicolor. It's awesome. The type 4, the individualist. If you think of a type 4 as a country, think France, okay? A country that just celebrates. The history of France is a celebration of the type 4, right? Now, here's the deal. I want to say, in America, someone asked me this earlier, maybe it was last night, maybe it was earlier today, is what is the number, the type 4 is the number that is the least common number in America. Which makes you think that maybe a lot of this stuff is nurture, not nature, right? Like we're a product of our environment. Oh, one thing we talked about last night is we keep in mind, a lot of times these numbers, how we arrive there, it's how we had to survive as a kid. So I don't know your parenting deal, but if we sat down and had a tea at Starbucks and heard your story, some of this stuff makes sense because this is how you learned to survive as a kid. With your parents or with your family or with your situation, you develop some of these. But what helped you survive as a kid don't necessarily help you thrive as an adult, right? A type 4 is an individualist, and I think that this, as we look at through, the darkness here is this, envy. Envy. But it's not envy like I wish I had what you had. It's scarier. It's I wish I was who you were. It's sad when it's unhealthy. Because a type 4, by God's divine design, is so unique. And that uniqueness is a gift. But sometimes God's gift feels like God's curse. And when you don't fit in with those around you, you begin to think something is wrong with you. If you know a type 4, your God-given responsibility is to pour life into them because they live in a world that they do not understand. And they understand better than most of us a whole different world. And we need to lean in and complement and supplement some of this stuff. The darkness is envy. The death is living in a predictable rut. Now, type 4s, not everybody, so again, it's not a label, it's a tendency. Type 4s typically hate predictable ruts, like jobs. Okay? So like, you want me to come into work at 9 every morning? Okay? Like, that could be like, ugh, okay? Matter of fact, the least employed in a team setting, this is type 4. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It doesn't mean that it's impossible. But if left unchecked, type 4s are going to tend to do their own thing, their own time, and be great contract employees in an environment like that. They're not often driven by team projects because they're going to be more individualist. You know, they're going to be more doing their own thing. The drive for a type 4 is to be special, to be special, to be special. But when we're healthy, we're not special because of what we do. We're special because of who we are, right? That's when we're healthy. We don't have to do something or strive something or wear something to be special. Now, be expressive, be you, be unique. That's awesome, right? That's the type 4. In the Bible, the type 4 that who knows, again, these are just examples of people whose lives kind of mirror some of the things that we're talking about. I look at the story of Joseph. Joseph, he had the colorful coats. And he was a guy who had a dream, and no one else liked his dream. And that's a bummer. Like, his dream was from God. And all of his brothers hated the fact that he had a special dream. And the first thing they did when Joseph was in charge is he had the coat. And the dad gave him the coat. And that coat when you're a construction worker, or the coat for an agricultural farmer, rancher in those days, was like wearing a mink jacket as a construction worker. That means you ain't going to lift a lot of stuff. You're the one pointing fingers, not plowing fields. And so he's the one in charge, and not even the oldest. And it says when they decided to kill their brother one day, it says the first thing they did when they saw him coming was rip the jacket off of him. The thing that makes you special, we don't think is very special. God, think about that. As a human being, this world, and specifically American culture, will try and rip the thing out of you that doesn't fit the system and make you feel like you're not worthy, you're not valuable. So we got to be careful of that. So the drive is to be special. Sometimes type 4s, they want to avoid being basic. They want to do something that matters. It's not about money, which can be very annoying to their parents, because their parents can spend $200,000 to get them a degree, to get them a $10 an hour job. And but they're going to be like, I feel significance in this. And what you got to do is stop and say, okay, maybe their goal isn't to own the corporation. Maybe their goal is to do beautiful work, and maybe that's actually their calling. And maybe it's not about the paycheck. Maybe it's about the product, right? They'll make their own clothes sometimes. They're not drinking at Starbucks. Like, they can choose. They want, like, they're going to go to this off-shoot coffee shop that nobody else has heard of, because that's a unique one, until it gets popular, and then no one goes to Starbucks anymore, and then they'll discover something called Starbucks, okay? And the rub, though, they have a hard time being happy because they feel like something might be wrong with them. For a 4, they can struggle to be satisfied. Instagram isn't very healthy for a 4 because they feel like they don't fit in. They tend to not necessarily have mainstream likes as much as other people, and that can really confuse and hurt them. Here's how 4s can cry in movies like nobody's business. Like nobody's business, and I know that's true because I own one. Is like, why? They're walking neurons. They're walking around with feelers everywhere, and they can feel when someone's telling a story, they're just wrapped into that story, and they do not compartmentalize. It's just a movie. You don't look at a 4 and say, why are you crying? It's just a movie. Don't you dare shatter that dream. This is their friend. They've been watching this for 22 minutes, and you're just going to say that person's not real? Like, this a 4. It's a 4 is going to feel. When you're having a conversation, they're going to feel with you. They're going to just be into it. A 4 isn't motivated to get their driver's license when they're 15. Like, when they're 19, you're like, get it, okay? Because why we're like, when you get your driver's license, you're going to be able to go out with everybody else. Like, why would I ever want to do that? And do you think you're punishing your 4 by sending them to the room? No, that's like giving them a stimulus money and like giving them like a rent-own vacation. They just love a 4 there. Like Janaea, our 4, when she goes to Disney, I go to Disney and I'm like, oh my word. Like, there's just like, they're trying to make money everywhere. She walks in and she's like, these are my people. This is, like, she's always had dreams about, like, I want to do like voiceovers, these kind of things. I'm like, I don't know that people do that, right? Because, like, I don't know anybody that does that. But she lives in Orlando. Guess what people do down there? That. They do that. Like, they really do. But they got to hold on to this. Okay, so 4s are going to fit really good a lot of times in the world that they create. They fear blending in and becoming invisible. Because they don't naturally fit in as well as some of these other numbers, they're going to probably do different things to stand out. They feel their feelings more than any other type. 4s, you need to hear this. You don't need to do anything special because you already are special. You are. And you just need to understand that. And being misunderstood can lead 4s to isolation. And that's where you got to watch if you got a 4 around you. If they don't feel they connect, here's what they connect better than any of us. Online, in the online world, in a movie, in any other type of dimension, and because they connect so well there, they'll retreat to that when they're not checking this. So, prescription for growth for a 4. Stand up even if you stand out. Go for it. Do you. Be you. Don't be so focused on what's around you that you forget what's within you. You are a gift from God. So be that. A lot of times people who feel special dream about doing something significant, so do that. Here's another prescription. Value connection over protection. Come on, 4, get out there. Value the connection with other people. 4s are going to need coached and pushed out of the nest more than any other number. Maybe tied with a 5, we'll get there, okay? But they need to value that connection with other people. And it's not safe Because you remember junior high, right? People are mean, especially if you don't fit in. And so they learn to protect. And so then 4's last thing is this: unlock your dreams by helping someone else fulfill theirs. When a 4 is healthy, they don't just stay in the land of their own dreams. They venture out and help people achieve theirs. And that's when 4s use their gift to make this world a better place. Let's go to the 5. The 5 we're going to call the observer. The investigator is another word you're going to see. They like to call it the wisdom, the wise one, but that's, I think, that's just nicer than the rest of ours. So we'll call him the observer. The 5s. They're dark. Okay, so the 5s are people who. How many 5s do we got? How many 5s do we got? 5s. Okay, so 5s. Fives have this ability to just check things out, to be able to capture information. Their eye holes are very used. Matter of fact, if you're over 25 and you're a 5, I don't know how random it is, typically you're wearing contacts or glasses, okay? I think you wear out your eyes quicker than anyone else because you are constantly seeing, observing, noticing those around you. Kind of interesting. Any 5s right here? Any 5s? Any 5s right in this sector? Okay? Typically, 5s will always sit on the back end of a room. Where are 5s out again? Okay? It's typically, why? Okay? You gotta watch what's going on. You're not gonna be having a surprise attack coming up on you. You wanna know what's going on. If you're a 5, you've already measured up who you think you can take in this room and how you're gonna take them, okay? You just know that kind of thing. You're a 5. And so here's a couple things about the 5. The darkness is greed. Don't think Scrooge McDuck necessarily. They're not going to give you money. But greed as in this. They don't want to share information with you because they worked hard to get it, you schmuck, okay? If you want the information, get off your lazy backside and get the information, is what they say. They won't say that because they're a 5, but they think that. They don't want to share that information. Here's what's so annoying about a 5 who's not being healthy. We can spend an hour in a team meeting trying to brainstorm the answer, the solution for a problem. The 5 already knows the answer the entire time. And they're never going to raise their hand and tell you. The whole time they're thinking, when are they going to just ask me? Okay? I can't believe they don't know the answer. They've known the answer forever, and then they'll just shake their hand. They'll probably tell their spouse, the people I work with are crazy. They just don't get it. For example, we had a 5 on our team, and he was in charge of facilities. And we had different campuses. We had different facilities. He was the only one who had the password for the air conditioning and the heater. And so we'd be like, hey, we got a meeting in this facility this time. Can you give me the password to air conditioning so the room's not hot? We'd be like, what time do you need it? I don't know. Just give me the code. What time do you need? I'll just swing over there. Like, he lives a half hour away. Like, how about you just give me the code? Like, no. He's not going to give us the code. Well, call, literally, this week, I'm here in Pasco this week. I'm reading all the reports from the weekend that's coming in. They still can't find the code to the Nixa campus. They can't find were you in charge of the Nixa campus code? I know you're a 5. Okay, but bottom line is we had a facilities person who's not been on the team for a year and a half. We still don't have the code to the air conditioning. And so we're like, how do we get the code? Okay, and then that's an example of a 5. I know the information, and here's why. If I share this information, I'm less valuable to this team. It's not true. Matter of fact, if you share this information, you're more valuable to the team. But the lie that we tend to believe is if I give this to you, I lose my edge. That's why when we're healthy, we just kind of hoard it. The death is being unhelpful. Which is crazy. The dysfunction makes you unhelpful. So as a 5, you got to understand this. Okay, I'm going to observe things. I'm going to see things. You're probably smarter than anybody else in the room. You probably are, right? You probably should have the microphone. Because I'm a 3, I do, okay? It's just like, just grabbed it. But bottom line is, you know what's going on, share it. You're going to have more information. Have an abundance mentality, not a scarcity mentality. You share the information you know, and because of your gift, you'll probably learn a bunch more information to share next time. But another thing about a 5 is this. The drive is to be competent and knowledgeable. You never want to surprise attack a 5. You never want to give a 5 a pop quiz. You never want to ask a 5 publicly to give an answer to a question, because not that they don't know it, they probably know it, but they're like, what if I'm wrong? That would make them spin in anxiety, right? So 5s, understand this. You have a gift of observing, of gathering. Your drug of choice is the internet. You don't watch fluffy movies like The Notebook, okay? You're watching documentaries. Like, you don't want to waste your time on some sappy story. You want to get some data, get some information, get some learning. 5s, we were talking about this, 5s will often collect things, not valuable things, okay? Not like Michael Jordan rookie cards. Collect things that aren't that valuable, but are interested to you. Like we were talking earlier this week, and someone collects hotel keys, okay? That's awesome, okay? You collect something and move on to something else. 5s know where to get stuff, get information. 5s can find the answers to anything. They're probably smarter than the rest of us. 5s are independent. They tend to observe the world rather than engage in it. Not because they don't feel like they fit in. It's because a lot of times they feel very confident in their ability to get the information, and they don't really like to need somebody else. Need somebody else feels very weak to a 5 naturally. If you're a 5, you're knowledgeable, analytical, self-reliant. You have strong belief that love and respect are gained by being self-sufficient, which is interesting because love and respect are typically gained by being interdependent. A lot of times a 5 has no problem entertaining themselves. COVID is like their jam. They love COVID. They don't need COVID to end anytime soon because this is what their preferred schedule might look like. 5s are the opposite. Excuse me. Opposite of shallow. They're the opposite of shallow. They don't have time for shallow conversation, shallow movies, shallow people. They want to dive into a conversation. All of us are loved and fearfully made. The observer, though, really expresses in their mind. If you fell in love with a 5, it's probably because they were thoughtful, incredibly perceptive. They notice things like a haircut, right? They notice things like an outfit. They remember things like a birthday. They write things down when they're healthy. But if you're married to a 5, you're not going to get a lot of words out of them if they're not very strategic. You're going to have to give them hints to talk. Things like, this would be the time for you to talk. Okay, you're going to have to give them those kind of cues if they're not naturally being intentional, right? 5s probably didn't get in a lot of trouble when they were a kid, not because they weren't bad, it's because they were smart enough to not get caught. Okay, that's mainly for 5s. 5s are the type of people, they're like, they want to know, how does this plane work when they're playing? And I'm like, I don't care, I just want it to, okay? But the 5's gonna like think about it. But the 5s, they make great pilots, they make great scientists, they uncover truth. Never take a 5 to a magic show, though. They're no fun at a magic show. They're going to tell you exactly how that happened or why that's not really magical. So just live with a 4 at a magic show, and that'll be awesome. You're like, I know how they did it, but just shut up. I want to believe in the magic. So they make great detectives. They've read the owner's manual. Okay, that's a rare deal. I don't even know what my card does, but a 5's memorized the owner's manual. A 5's going to want to know everything about every single town you drive by. They're going to geek out about information. So here's the deal. 5s, their superpower is they're rarely distracted by feelings. Which is a superpower. Like, seriously, think about this. Like, do you want your surgeon to be a 4? Oh my goodness! They're gonna die! The 5's like, hand me the arm. Okay. Like, no big deal. We got this. Okay, there are jobs that cater to being able to compartmentalize these feelings. In a crisis, I want a 5. And so these are great, dependable things. And it's all about the mind. Their lives aren't based on the heart, but they're based on the head. 5s, they don't waste their time or they don't waste their words. Again, that's that greed. Not greed like money, but greed like I'm not going to share what I have. And when they're not healthy, they're not going to share what they think. They're not going to share about their day. They're not going to share their words. They're going to keep it to themselves. And so the 5s also tend to remain calm and focused to make great decisions. For example, a 5, when you go to a restaurant, they're not going to be like, hey, everybody, let's just pitch in like $5. I think that'll cover it. You're never going to hear a 5 say that. A 5's already got an app on their phone to calculate the tip, okay? And to know who owes what, right? Portuguese, in the 1500s, it was a rule in Portugal you could not print a map because they discovered it. And if anybody else realized what they knew, then maybe other people would discover worlds too. So they had the incredible advantage by they believed not sharing information was the key to great success. And we got to think about that when it comes to 5. So prescription for growth for a 5. First is this: explore what you lack. Notice your tendency to withdraw. And practice staying connected and talking a little longer. 5s, get good at this when you're in a conversation, saying this line. And then what happened? Like, there's nothing naturally within you that's going to want to say that line. Just try it. Really? Wow. And then what happened? And you're just going to be like bristling like, oh my word, I just invited them to keep attacking my ears. Wow, okay? Just get good at it. So explore what you lack. And here's a prayer for a 5. Lord, help me to have the grace for those around me who are so incompetent. And if you prayed that every single day, it's going to help you. It's going to help you. So explain what you know. Explain what you know. 5s, you're not naturally going to want to join a group for anything. Like, why would you do that? If you're interested in the topic, you'll just Google it. It's way more efficient. Just understand that's not your health. That's a dysfunction, actually. So explain what you know. Maybe God wants to use your ability to understand concepts in a way to help other people understand concepts. I think that's a great prayer. Lord, help me to understand your word and help me to communicate in a way that other people can understand your word. That could be a great, healthy version of a 5. And then so you explore what you lack, explain what you know, and then express what you feel. 5s, express what you feel. If you think it, say it. You're already calculated. You're not going to fly off the handle in a rage. You're not. You're already calm, cool, and collected. So when you think about that, put your praise and fire your praise and hit the target with it. When you can, like, your words are going to be meaningful. Your words, while they're not natural for you to share, are going to be supernatural how they land. So utilize that. So that's the 5s. So think about that. In Scripture, one of the persons who represents an angle of a 5 I like is Thomas. Thomas in Scripture. All the other disciples heard a rumor that Jesus is alive. They're like, what? That's awesome! He's alive! Thomas is like, doubt it. And then Jesus shows up, and they're like, told ya! You're wrong! And he's like, come here. Hands. Let me see him. Let me touch him. That's not bad. We give him a bad rap. We call him Doubting Thomas. Doubting Thomas died for the faith after he took the journey of exploration. Your doubt will turn into a shout. So don't be afraid of doubt. Follow it. Explore it. Lean into it. And you're going to be more confident than anybody else. I Love it. It's a good thing. 5s, dive into this. Okay, 6s, the loyalist. Where are 6s at? Loyalists, the faithful ones. We got a 6 over here, 6 over here. We gotta have more than 3 6s. Okay, that's bad. Okay, let's just say there's 4. Okay, so we got 6. The loyalists, the faithful people. These are people who they're going to model God's friendship, God's faithfulness in our lives. Let me hit some of the attributes of it. The darkness for a 6 could be fear. They could have pre-traumatic stress disorder. Like you've heard of post-traumatic stress disorder. That's when everything went bad and now all of a sudden you got the shakes forever, okay? They have pre-traumatic. They're going to get the shakes in an event that maybe something might go bad, okay? They're going to freak out they're going to freak out long before the event starts, okay? They're going to think about all the things, they can tend to think about all the things that could go wrong, right? Like there's some numbers like 7s and 3s are like, what might go right? That's awesome, that's exciting. And that's not a world that a 6 naturally lives in. The death for a 3 is not being supported. So a 6 is going to come across like hesitant, nervous, like a chihuahua in a thunderstorm, okay? That could be sometimes how a 6 is going to come across. That doesn't mean they're not with you. That means if they're unhealthy, they're so focused on what could go wrong, they're having a hard time even understanding what could go right, okay? The drive for a 6 is to feel secure. Here's the challenge. Most of us, if we can't see the problem, we're not aware of the problem. 6s have a gift from God to see the problem, which could be very annoying to those of us who don't want to talk about problems, right? So what we need to do is grow and to say, hey, maybe God wants us to troubleshoot this a little bit. Maybe this is going to be important enough to really think about what we're diving into here. Maybe we can lean into this. 6s need to be able to say, okay, hey, I'm a little nervous, a lot of obstacles that are out there. This idea is so important. How do we make sure the worst doesn't happen? So we're going to walk through the 6. They can value security more than opportunity. Let's not try something new because what's happening right now currently works. When unhealthy, a 6's life can be dictated by fear and anxiety. Anxiety. When I don't know what's going to happen and that bugs me, then I'm going to have a hard time focusing on anything else. The superpower, though, is they can prepare for any challenge. Insurance agents. Booyah. Okay? That's like a super 6. You want that. Travel agents. Yes. Preparation. Event planners. Yes. Okay? There are so many areas in life that industries rise and fall on the ability of this particular type. Prescription for growth for a 6. Smile more. Smile more. When you recognize that tension and anxiety coming up, just smile. Remember last night's activity, palms in the air, big old smile? That is a daily prescription for a 6. Just understand, when you recognize anxiety, that doesn't mean you're a slave to that. Right? And I'm talking about daily anxiety that it could come up and we get triggered about stuff. I know that there's different levels of anxiety, but when I'm talking about the daily stuff that you recognize, I'm not in control, is when you realize I'm not in control of that, that can lead to anxiety, but when you remind yourself, I don't need to be in control of that. Okay. Just because I don't know how this might end doesn't mean I can't start. So another prescription is embrace calculated risk. Embrace calculated risk. Say, okay, there is no way we can guarantee this thing's going to work. But thank you for sharing the challenges. Thank you for sharing the obstacles. That was helpful for our decision. In light of that, let's move forward. And as a 6, you can then say, all right, good. I brought value. I helped us think through the challenges. I don't need to eliminate the challenge. I need to identify the challenge. And that's fine. When you're a parent, and you're talking about all the challenges of this potential relationship for your kid. Your job isn't to control the decisions they make. Your job is to help them understand the decisions they're going to make. Help them think through some of these things. And when they've already identified this, that they understand what you're saying, then you smile. Hands up, and be like, all right, awesome. Anything I can do to help you, I'm here. Instead of now, I'm going to try and control it until you do what I say. And then we talked about this last night, but park the mental car. Park the mental car. Means when this anxiety comes in, it's like swirling. Just put it in a slot. Just be like, okay, when I communicate the challenge, I don't need to convince you of the challenge. I just need to communicate the challenge. And when I do that, that's it. God doesn't need any of us to solve all the challenges prematurely. God is giving you a gift to help a lot of us who don't even understand there are challenges to help prepare for challenges. So go for it. Healthy sixes. When we do that, we can lean in, take some risks. Okay, sevens. We have three more. It's sevens, eights, and nines. Sevens is this, the adventurer. Okay? The adventurer. Real quick, six in Scripture. I didn't hit six in Scripture. I'm not going to really dive into the story, but Hosea, I think, is a great picture of faithfulness and loyalist in Scripture. Someone who everyone said he was a prophet, and his wife had gone off the deep end relationally and ended up being a prostitute. It's kind of a crazy story. And God used Hosea's faithfulness, love, and to take a step, even though everyone around said it was too risky, to model his love for us. And so that's what a six can do. Sixes are the best friends. They're great friends. They're faithful to you. Don't ever cross them, okay? They'll just write you off the list. But when unhealthy. But when you can be faithful and loyal, you're communicating God's thing. Seven is the adventure. These are the encouragers. They're the walking joy bombs of the Enneagram. The darkness, though, for a seven is gluttony. And I don't mean like hanging out at Golden Corral too much gluttony. What I mean by that is an overindulgence of all things fun. Okay? Like if six is good, a dozen's better. And that's what, like if one vacation's awesome, 10's better. Okay? If one pill's good, 5 pills might be better. Sevens tend to be the most addicted to substance than any other number on the Enneagram. Okay? That's not a prophecy for you. Okay? Again, it's not a label. It's just there's some predictable patterns of sin, is what we're talking about. When I say I have to get the best high out of life every time, that's a pretty difficult train to stay on. And because life doesn't always live there, so that's where the darkness is too much of something. The death is missing out or dealing with pain. But pain is actually a gift from God. Bad things aren't always a gift from God, but pain can be used by God. And when I avoid the pain, I don't grow through the pain, I just punt the pain to deal with later. Like, I don't get through the pain by ignoring my pain. We understand that. You might not ever get over something, but you do have to get through something. And if you have to have a new relationship, a new job, a new vacation, a new hobby, a new this, all the time, and you look at it and you say, oh, it's because I'm avoiding the pain, is what I need to do is grow, not necessarily go, okay? Now, a 7, for fun, they're going to land on Priceline, on Carnival.com. That's going to, when they're stressed out, they're going to be like hitting that up, right? Because they don't want to deal with the pain, the doldrums. Okay, the drive for a 7 is anything new and exciting. Anything new and exciting. They're like the opposite of a 6, by the way. Okay, so if you're in a relationship with a 6 or a 7, that's like super fun. That's like a teeter-totter. Okay, so like, you know, 6 is like what? Here's all the wrong that can happen. A 7 is like what can go wrong. When healthy, though, a 7 can find joy in all situations. When healthy, here's what's crazy. A 7, when healthy, is God's gift to a community to help you get through pain. But when unhealthy, your very gift is polluted and perverted because you avoid pain. There is no other type that is better equipped to get through pain than you. However, there's no other type that wants to avoid pain more than you. So it's one of those things where you got to die to your desire to escape. You got to say, God, what can I lean into that I naturally want to run away from, right? And I want to be that person. So they're motivated. They're motivated by fun and freedom. So if anybody ever have a bad job before? Anybody ever have like a job you didn't like? Okay. Like 7s don't care about their role as much as the vibe. A 7's not like freaked out about the job if they like the people on a job. A 7 will stay at a bad job because they have good people around them. A 7 will also quit a good job because they don't like the people around them. So a 7 lives off energy. They're energy sensors. And they can also just kick that energy to those around them. You've all worked with a 7, the type of person when they walk in a room, everybody like lights up a little bit, like, man, they're fun. Okay, this is going to be good. This road trip's going to be great. Okay, things are going to be better when they're there. Okay, because they have that kind of energy in the room. So when they're healthy, they find joy in all situations, and they can make light of even a terrible situation. They're motivated by fun and freedom. We talked about that. They'll do anything to avoid pain, though, is a tendency, which can leave them shallow. They can quickly escape relationships when it gets tough. That's not a cool marriage trait, by the way. Think about that. So just understand tendencies. My tendency, if I'm a 7, is when things aren't fun, do something else that's fun. Find someone else that's fun. Right? Understand that. Don't quit a job just because you don't like the person. Don't quit a relationship because you don't like the person. Lean into that. See if we can grow. They can be easily distracted. So they spend a lot, sometimes too much time getting things done. A 7. A 7, you might have to turn off the internet in order to get something done at work. A 7 is the type of person saying, anybody need a coffee break? I'll go, I'll run, I'll do it, right? It's totally cool. I'm game. I'll just make a quick trip. A 7's going to make a lap. Here's the deal. 7s are wired like that. You're not going to sit in a cubicle all day. You need to move it. I get it. So here's what you need to do. Say, I'm not going to move for 30 minutes. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to accomplish a lot of stuff. And then 30 minutes, I'm going to do a victory dance, high five people in the office. This is awesome. Tell them what I did. And then another 30 minutes. Do it for another 30 minutes. Or naturally, you're going to just do 30 minutes of work and dance around all day, okay? And people will like you, and they're wondering why you got fired. Because like, we all like them. And they're like, they didn't do anything. But so here's the deal. We got to watch that. Here's prescriptions for growth. Filter your feelings so you don't feel overwhelmed. Filter your feelings. You can't outrun pain. It's eventually going to catch up. But what's crazy is pain is what produces joy. And so that's actually your fuel when you lean into it. Sometimes a 7 can have a hard time being a strong parent or a boss because they try to make everybody their friend. Right? And that's not helpful. So if you want healthy relationships, you got to explore that pain. Another prescription for growth. Be intentional with your surroundings so that you can focus. Be very intentional with your surroundings when you got things to do. Understand. And then don't use it as a label, like I just can't get things done. I'm not going to work. Yeah, you can. You just got to give yourself mini vacations, okay? Time those 5-minute vacations out throughout your day. And that's fine. And if you're working with a 7, that's fine. Not everyone's like you, okay? They play with different Play-Doh. We talked about that yesterday. Is understand that, celebrate that, and give them a high five. Use your perspective to give someone else courage. Use your perspective to give someone else courage. Barnabas in Scripture is called the son of encouragement. I've been called a son of before, but it wasn't encouragement. Okay, son of encouragement is Barnabas. That's what his name means. When he walked in the room, there was a dude that got ditched by Paul because Paul was a one, remember? And the dude didn't do it right. He was a missionary, and he got booted, right? John Mark. And so Paul's like, no, not again. I'm not going on a trip with him. What a bummer to be like, call your parents and be like, hey, I'm going to be in the Bible. Yeah, they're going to talk about me in the Bible. And then read what it says about the dude that disappointed Paul. Like, what a bummer day. And then Barnabas is like, hey, bro, mind if you follow me around for a little while? I see something in you. Yeah, Paul, Paul's a little rough. Doesn't see a lot of gray. God's still working on him. He's a chief of sinner, ain't he? Okay, but here's the deal. Is I see something in you that you don't see in you. Fast forward to the end of Paul's life. Paul says, hey, can someone get John Mark? He's super valuable to me in ministry. Whoa. What happened? Someone met Barnabas. Barnabas spoke into his life and gave him the courage. An encourager means put courage into. Sevens, fuel your kids with courage. They're going into a dark world. Fuel them with courage. Fuel your spouse with courage. Fuel your team at work with courage. That's what sevens can do. Follow God's promptings. Fight for underdogs. And you're going to find evidence of hope. Two more. The challenger. Okay, the challenger is the 8. How many 8s do we... Oh, wait, where are my 7s? Where are the 7s? Where were the 7s? Okay, we got 7s. Good, all right. Where are the 8s? Where are the 8s? Where are the 8s? Where are the 8s? All right, 8s. The challengers, 8, have more energy than anybody else on the Enneagram. Okay? So lots of energy. They are a lot of energy. And they can absolutely be overwhelming how intense they can be. And so we're going to walk through, the darkness is lust. Now, again, that's not just like a sexual thing. Certainly can be, you're not the hook, okay? But that's not what that means. It means this. I want what isn't mine. Power, more of it. Give me power. I am fueled by power. Love it. The 8s have an energy to attack obstacles like nobody else on the Enneagram. 8s. 8s can get it done. 8s have the energy when everything, like, think of Winston Churchill. We will beat them by sea. We'll beat them by land. We'll beat them by air. Let's do it. You know. Think of Martin Luther King Jr. There's an obstacle. We are going to do this. We're going to overcome this kind of thing. We can take a dark obstacle and we have an energy to be able to drive through an obstacle. That's the power of an 8. However, not everything's an obstacle. And when we bring that kind of intensity and energy to a relationship, could be overwhelming, especially to a number who's not an 8, okay? 8s are typically the only number on the Enneagram that love a good conflict. Like, you can like an 8's like, I'm just saying the truth, man, right? Anyone who ever says, I'm just telling you the truth, just hurt my feelings. Okay, they just hurt my feelings. You might be right, you're still a jerk, I'm just saying, okay? And sometimes an 8 can be like, they can get in a conflict and then walk away like, that's great. Totally cool. Like when you watch 2 8s go at it, like especially in a work environment, who did this? What are you calling me there for? That's not wrong, you're wrong, blah, blah, blah. They walk heads, let's go grab a drink, okay? Like there are so many of us that would be crying in the corner. Like, why did you yell at me? And an 8 doesn't understand. Like, I'm telling the truth. Like, I'm just saying it. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. And here's what's crazy. They didn't mean to. They did hurt you. They didn't mean to. Right? So we got to understand that energy is overwhelming. As we hit, I wish up my notes here. I want to make sure I'm on the same page. Make sure we get our blinks filled in. Here we go. On the 8s is the darkness of lust, the death is being controlled, and the drive is to have power. We talked about that. Death is being controlled and drive is to have power. An 8, when they feel someone is micromanaging them, no. Okay? You're telling me what to do? That's not going to work. Not going to work. Right? And you want to have that power. And so as we look at this, there's a few things. They have more energy that comes out through words and work. They have more energy and it comes out through their words, their volume, their work. They can be so focused on the role that they forget about the identity. Meaning, you could could come across very personal when you don't mean to be. You can, with gusto and energy, attack a product or a behavior in such a way, you're like a bull in a china shop. Is you don't understand how powerful your words are. Remember we talked about body language and tone of voice? 8's got a lot of it. Their all caps button is stuck on, like physically here. And so we gotta watch that. Their fuel is to take ground and speak truth. Think about Steve Jobs. He created Apple. Then he got kicked out of Apple. And then he took it back. The dude's powerful, right? He's certainly capable, right? Eights can get things done, but when they get lazy, they don't mind. They know they can get things done, and they're like, they'll light the way with the bridges they burn behind them if they're not careful. So here's a prescription for growth. Remember your impact, not just your outcome. It does matter how you play the game. It does matter how you treat that child. As a parent, you can be so focused on the outcome, you're not thinking about your impact. As a spouse, is your control can lead to cower for the person near you. Second thing about 8, use your power to serve someone who needs help. God gave you your power not to make you stronger, to make those around you stronger. Keep those arrows pointed out. And then the last thing there is this, keep the safety on. Realize that you got a loaded gun at all times. Meekness is not weakness. Meekness is controlled strength. Is you have the ability to have that energy to help people. Here's a couple questions for every 8 tonight in your notes is this. How tender is my heart? Which makes you bristle, probably. And how is my strength helping others? That would be a great devotional thought every day. God, how is my strength helping others? When I can do that, I can be helpful. In Scripture, one example of an 8 is Samson. Obviously, the power guy, right? Who wasted a lot of his power accomplishing his own objectives, forgetting that God gave him his power to help a nation that was in bondage. Don't waste your power on you. That's perverting God's purpose in your life. Use your power to help those around you have strength. Last one is this, the peacemaker. The peacemaker. How many 9s do we got? 9s do we got? The connector, the peacemaker. Very good. Okay. The peacemaker, almost everybody on the Enneagram, almost everybody around you is going to, you have a natural gift with other people, okay? And so we're going to talk about this as the darkness is laziness. And often it can be work laziness, but typically it's relational laziness. I don't want to do the heavy lifting of relationships. I'd rather not go there and let's just keep this relationship surface. That's relational laziness. So when I talk about laziness, don't just think hammock, taking a nap, okay? Think about avoiding some of the harder conversations in life because you just don't want to go there. The death to a 9 is losing harmony. When I feel like there's tension, sometimes you're a 9. If you pull the string of maybe why you're a 9, maybe you grew up in a household with a lot of tension and you were the one who helped make it a little lighter. You were the one who helped mom, not get upset, or dad calm down, right? And there's a reason why you got there, okay? But understand that losing harmony is the thing that you fear the most. So your drive is to create unity, creating unity. 9s are good listeners. They're great includers. They're patient. They can be passive aggressive. They don't often share their opinion because it's hard for them to make decisions. And so they'd rather ask for someone else's opinion. Not because they don't have an opinion, they just don't want to use their opinion. They want someone else to get it. 9s can be laid back, accommodating, easygoing, receptive, reassuring, agreeable, complacent, often busy with soft tasks like people skills while avoiding projects. Would rather go to coffee with someone and talk about something as opposed to doing a project. They'll take the edge off the energy in a meeting. They are energy slugs. Often they can take the energy out of a lot of room. Criticism really hurts a 9. And they will often tend to avoid conflict at all costs. So here's a few things that we see about 9s. They can use encouragement as an exit, not an entrance, relationally. Like, I don't like where this is going, so let me encourage you as a way to get out of the conversation. That's not the purpose of encouragement. The purpose of the encouragement is to step in to where God's gifted you to be able to speak into someone's life. 9s, if you are afraid of like breaking harmony, you're gonna be like, no, it's all good. It's all good. No, I'm totally fine. And you're gonna leave. Don't do that. 9s can tend to avoid hard tasks and hard conversations. We talked about that. And then 9's superpower is to connect with a variety of people. A 9 by nature can see the perspective of everybody in the room. A 9 by nature is not quick to judge. A 9 by nature is phenomenal at understanding someone else's story, someone else's angle. This is a great gift. So, but let me talk about 3 things real quick, and it's not in your notes. Peace takers create conflict. 9s are never going to do that. Okay? 8s might. Peace fakers avoid conflict. Peacemakers resolve conflict. A peacemaker is not a peace faker. This is really deep, okay? Sometimes if you're going to be a peacemaker, you need to make peace. And making peace isn't peaceful. Making peace isn't harmony. So here's some prescription for growth. For our last number here is this. Seek health over harmony. Health over harmony is what's the healthy thing I need to say, not what is the most harmonious thing I need to say. And don't worry about how you're going to come across. There is nobody else on God's green earth that's more gifted and naturally prepared for conflict as you. You are very people-oriented. You are already very aware of their sensitive feelings. You are positioned perfectly to be used by God to speak into somebody's life. So don't seek health over harmony, or don't seek harmony over health. So we got to focus on that. Vocalize your disagreement. Vocalize your disagreement. Say it when you disagree. And then the last thing is this: approach conflict so that you can make meaningful connections. Sometimes it's the conflict that's there that you need to step into so that you can connect those around you. So the death for a 9 is I don't want to have the hard conversations when you are God's gift to be able to help people see something, because you've already seen both sides of the equation. 9 different types. You have a little of all of them in you. You have a predominant one that seems to be your go-to. There are triggers inside of you that can let dysfunction jump out like a beach ball, and everyone around you has a divine design. And when I take the time to become self-aware and to become others aware, everybody around me wins. So, last thing is this. Let me share this with you some questions. A couple questions. Illustration, love this illustration, especially when it comes to the Enneagram. Let's pretend we're Appletown, USA. And in Appletown, we grow apples. Apples are God's gift. Oranges are evil. We don't grow oranges. We come to church, we talk about the sin of oranges and the virtue of apples. But one day we wake up, we look in our backyard, and guess what we see on our apple tree? An orange. We're embarrassed. We look left to that neighbor, look right to that neighbor, hope they don't notice. We run out there with shears and clip off that orange. Next day, we see 2 oranges growing on our apple tree. We race out to the yard, clip those oranges off, duct tape some apples, wondering if the neighbors noticed. We go to church that day, the pastor preaches another message on the evils of oranges. We amen, but inside we feel pretty guilty. Does anybody know that I'm growing oranges? The next day, you have 4 oranges. The next day, 8 oranges, 16 oranges, 32 oranges, exponential oranges. I don't care if you're Edward Scissorhands. Eventually, you can't shear off those oranges quick enough because you're grabbing the wrong tool. It's not a shear that you need. You need to grab a shovel because your problem is below the surface. It's not the fruit that's getting all your attention. It's the root. When it comes to the Enneagram, that's why, like, when people say, it's a tool that you can use, that would be about fruit management. When it's God's tool, it's root management. It is God. Search my heart. Let me go below the surface. Let you put your spirit inside of me so that eventually I'll produce a different fruit because I'm connected to the right root. Every day, in every way, we crucify our desires. The fruit will take care of itself. Now, trim the tree, okay? Whatever you got to do, but focus underneath the surface, and that's where God does the deep work so we can bring out glory in our divine design. Okay, a couple questions on the Enneagram we hit. There's a lot to go on, a lot of resources out there online. You want to dive into more. And again, there's going to be groups in just a second. We can get some direction on that. But any questions we can at least kick around for a second before we dismiss here? Yeah? Okay, for those who are joining us through the recording, the question is, do we have any direction for a 4 who's married to a 1? I'm going to bring your attention to the back page of this. There's actually a really great connection, okay? 1, my daughters can do a workshop on this because one's a 4, one's a 1, and they've lived together for 18 years. They still like each other, okay? Now, that's not always easy. So, but here's the deal. When you see the connections, that's actually a relationship that's fairly natural. Because a 1 under stress could go to the dark side of the 4, right? And so we see that. But a 4, when they're healthy, becomes a little bit more organized and principled, like the best part of a 1. Now, that doesn't mean if a 4 grows up, they'll be a 1, and if a 1's like stressed out, they're going to be a 4. That's not what I'm saying. We go to the dark side of 1 when we're stressed. All I have to say is this. A 1 and a 4, you're naturally oil and water. But it's not a label. And it's not a lid. It is saying, okay, we've got to figure out systems that a 4 doesn't suffocate from and a 1 can live with. Let's just figure it out. Let's have the conversations. We've got to communicate those expectations super clearly. That's true with all these numbers. Like, I'm married to Leanne, who's a 2. They say a 3 and a 2 are some of the toughest emotional connections. That doesn't mean we're going to have a rough marriage. What it means is we're not going to drift our way to health. We gotta intentionally have the conversations that we need to have. Every number, and now there's pairings, and you can get their websites and Google relationship, Enneagram, and that kind of stuff. And I think there'll probably be some better tips than I know on the top. But I would say with all of them, have intentional conversations, surrender your own desires, don't stick with a label, and just grow. And when we become healthy, we're not a healthy 1 and a healthy 4, we're a healthy person, right? And we can do this thing. So it's communication. Other questions? Yes? 3's in America. And again, that's why I think it's more of a nurture thing. It's just obviously it's people tend to grow into where the patterns are. Okay? And not that would be true in 10 years, but that's kind of like a capitalistic, we're gonna do this. Yay, we want to have image, we don't want to be, like, you can do like country, like, and it's not like a country really has an Enneagram type, but you can see like which countries are, in different numbers. It's kind of a fun deal there, but that's what America seems to value with some of their cultures that makes it easy for a 3 to be a 3 and feel like that make them deceptively think that they're doing better than they are, okay? Because you can be really great at being a 3 but not be a healthy person. So, yeah. Oh, I didn't even hit that. Thank you for asking that. Jonah is the Bible type for a 9. Jonah, I don't know if Jonah's a 9. I'm going to ask him, but I'm going to have him, okay? I think he got there. I need to recheck before again. But bottom line is this, is Jonah on the 9 is this. God says, I want you to go to Nineveh, okay? I want you to go to this city who's wicked and evil and all this stuff. And he's like, nope, not going to do that, okay? Well, how about a different assignment? And God's like, no. You are perfectly designed to be the voice for this. I don't want to do that. I don't want to have that conversation. I am going to punt, and doesn't do the thing God called him to do because it was too hard, and he feared that wouldn't bring a message of harmony, and so he said no. But when you disobey, God It doesn't change his assignment. You just delay God's assignment. He doesn't say, okay, you win. What do you want to do? Okay, that's not how it works. You're just delayed obedience is still disobedience. So, okay, other questions? Other questions? Yes? Bible person would be Jacob. And there's probably different ones in there. The one that I did when I was doing the series was talk about Jacob with the angle of this. That moment where he put on the goat hair to pretend to be someone he wasn't because he wanted to get something he wanted. And threes are those relational chameleons. What do you need me to be in this meeting? I'll be that. Threes can go into a job interview, probably get the job. You're going to read the room, figure out what role they need to play, change your costume, and go win the job. Right? So, and again, what I'm trying to be clear, that's not healthy. It's not healthy. And why I have to say that? Because sometimes I'm like, that sounds awesome. Okay, because I'm not unhealthy. Okay, so other questions. Other questions. We're in speed jeopardy round. Speed jeopardy round. Awesome. I'd encourage you, again, go back to it's not a label, it's not a lid, it's not pop psychology. We don't just throw it around at numbers, but it's something to lean into. Very good. Thank you so much for being here. I invite Matt to come back up. As you consider maybe some next steps, community, whether it's this or something else like this, I just believe all this shows us that we're better together, and community is actually not just a cool church idea, it's a God idea, and it's a gift to each other. You're a gift to those around you, they are a gift to you, and so thanks for leaning into